So, on this video, we're going to speak about the fat storing hormone that may be holding you back from getting leaner. That fat storing hormone is insulin. It could either work in your favor or it can work against you. And I'm going to show you exactly what steps you can take in order to have it work for you so that way you can get better results faster and it's going to be easier to get lean. It's going to be easier to burn fat. And I'm going to explain what's going on in your body and why it may be harder for you to burn fat, even if you're quote unquote dieting. Basically, what happens is when we eat, especially carbohydrates, things like pasta, potatoes, anything, rice, anything that's starchy, sometimes fruits, things like that. Carbohydrate sources, when they come into the body, what's going to happen is insulin is then going to raise. Now, that's important because you eat the food, it then goes into your bloodstream, and it needs some place to go. So it needs to go into your cell. So here we have the cell, right? And insulin is the key that unlocks the cell so that way sugar and carbohydrates can get into the cell to do what they need to do, which is basically provide you with energy, help your metabolism, get everything moving. Now, why this is important is because we need insulin to be working correctly for the key to work correctly inside the lock. This is your cell. Insulin is the key that will open the lock to your cell. Now, what happens is if you have too many of these carbohydrates, what will happen? Have you ever tried to, you're in the middle of the dark, you're trying to get into your house or another door, and you have like this big set of keys and you don't know which key is which, and you're jiggling the keys all around trying to get in? That's what happens when you eat too many carbohydrates, or if you eat them at the wrong time. What's going to happen is now there's too many that go in that are in the bloodstream, and now insulin, the key, is not going to correctly work inside the lock like it's supposed to. So what happens then? You have your cell. If your carbohydrates and sugars cannot get into the cell, they then will go back into the bloodstream. But if they're in the bloodstream, that's going to cause a lot of issues. So what happens? They then need to be put into storage because your body's like, whoa, there's too much going on here. This is too dangerous. Get the sugar out of the blood and put it somewhere. It's going to go to one of three places. It's going to go to your muscles, which can hold around 400 grams of carbohydrate. It's called glycogen, basically carbohydrates that are stuck in reserve. 400 grams basically for your muscles in your body. Your liver will hold around maybe 80 to 100 grams. So you figure about 480, 500 grams total. Once you are over that mark and glycogen is filled up, what will then happen is your body still needs to put the sugar and the excess carbohydrate somewhere. So what it will do is it will form fat molecules to get the sugar out of the blood and store it away in fat. So that is like your actual body fat. Now, why this is important is because if you're eating too many carbohydrates over a consistent period of time, basically it's just like filling your tank up at the gas station. If your tank is already full and you continue to try to pour gas into your tank, it's going to spill all over the place. In regard to your health and your body, what that means is it's going to make you hold on to excess body fat. You're now literally storing extra body fat for no reason, where you can now use the timing and the right strategy in order to balance this equation out. So it's extremely important. And what happens is over time, if you're eating 5 times a day, 6 times a day, every time you eat, insulin is going to spike a little bit. Now, if it keeps spiking high and you have high carbohydrates, high sugars, and that's happening over and over, what happens is insulin, you lack sensitivity. Basically, what that means is the key stops working in the lock. This is what happens with type 2 diabetics. The insulin has spiked so much over such a long period of time that the key no longer works in the lock. Their cells do not even accept the sugar, and that's why they have high blood sugar. The excess sugar just keeps floating around. Now, how to combat this is think of it just like a car or just like a gas tank, and you want to basically empty out the tank in order to fill it up again. Ways you empty out the tank is through exercise. So any type of activity, whether it's cardio, whether it's weightlifting, whether it's bike riding, whether it's running, hiking, climbing, whatever you like to do, that's going to burn out some of the gas in the tank, right? And now basically you want to burn it out and then fill it a little. Burn it out, then fill it a little. Ways to keep this from spiking are to look at smart carbohydrates, which are basically things that have fiber. So fruit has sugar, but it also has fiber. Potatoes, sugar, but also fiber. Beans, carbohydrates, but also fiber. Things that have fiber are going to blunt the spike. And another easy way to use this is days that you have more activity, days that you're working out, your body is going to burn through more carbohydrates, more sugars. Days that you don't have that much activity, your body is not burning that much. And so if you're still eating like you do on normal days when you work out, what's happening is now you have an excess, and that excess has to be stored somewhere, and it's not going to get burned up. It's going to be stored usually around your stomach, primarily. So you're going to have excess body fat. It's going to be hard to see your abs. It's going to be hard to burn that. And if you're doing this day by day by day, it becomes very hard. Even if you try dieting, even if you try counting calories, and that's why that approach doesn't always work, because it's how your hormones are working in your body and how your body's using the food. It's not necessarily the calories, because you could eat 1,000 calories of Oreos or 1,000 calories of steak, and it's going to impact your hormones completely different. The steak has a lot of protein and fat. That's going to stabilize your blood sugar. Whereas 1,000 calories of Oreos is loaded with a shitload of sugar. That's going to spike your insulin through the roof, and your body's going to be in fat storage mode. One of the ways personally I combat this is I do a ton of intermittent fasting. Basically, I do not have breakfast in the morning. I don't eat till around 2 p.m., 3 p.m. And days I don't have that much activity, I keep my carbohydrates lower, and I eat a lot more carbohydrates around the time that I work out. So I may have a little bit of fruit or rice right before my workout. I may have more carbohydrates right after my workout, but the times away from that, I keep carbohydrates to a minimum. And that strategy alone is how you can start to get insulin to work correctly again. And if you really are a data nerd and you want to dive a little deeper, you can get blood work that will show you this. But if you have a blood sugar sort of like a pricker for your finger, like diabetics use, basically you can see what your actual glucose is, what your blood glucose, your blood sugar is. When you have no food coming into your body first thing in the morning, that number should be between 77 and 88. That is functionally optimal. If you are over 88, maybe you're a little stressed, maybe you didn't get great sleep that night. If you start creeping past 100, now your body is in fat storage mode. And if that is your fasting glucose, there is definitely a major issue with how your body is handling carbohydrates and how your body's handling insulin. Another way to test is once you eat food, you wait approximately 2 hours. So let's say you have rice and chicken, whatever it's going to be. You wait 2 hours. At the end of 2 hours, you test your blood sugar again. Ideally, functionally, it should be around 135. If you're exceeding over 150, you have problems with regulating blood sugar. You have problems with how your body is handling carbohydrates. And therefore, fasting is something that can definitely help you. Another strategy is carb cycling. And what does that mean? Basically, let's say I work out today. I eat my rice, my fruit, whatever I'm having today, potatoes. Maybe tomorrow I don't work out at all. Just meat and greens, right? So just protein, maybe green vegetables, maybe salad, keeping carbs to a low. And that strategy is a way that you can do this over time. So that way you can have carbs, you can have sort of whatever you want, but you're working with your body over time, and you're going to be able to reset the way insulin works in your body. It is so much easier to burn fat. And over time, your body, your metabolism has like a light switch. So it's either going to burn a shitload of sugar and carbohydrates, or you're going to be able to teach it how to burn fat. If you're constantly eating a shitload of carbohydrates, that's all your body's ever going to be knowing how to burn. Your switch is going to be turned off. Whereas if you lower carbohydrates and you reset your insulin sensitivity, what that will then do for you is it puts your body in a fat burning state. So anytime food is not coming in, your body is then burning fat. You have this sort of dimmer switch that could go on and off between carbohydrates and fat metabolism. That is why some people have phenomenal results with something like a keto diet. That's exactly what it's doing. It's training the body to stop burning glucose and stop burning carbohydrates and sugars and rather start burning body fat. And guess what? Between you and me, we have tons of extra body fat that we could be burning through, like thousands and thousands of calories of body fat that could literally be burning through. But if we're getting in the way by putting too much sugar into the bloodstream, whether it's from candy, whether it's from soda, whether it's from juice, whether it's from too much fruit, whether it's from too much rice, whether too much potatoes, whatever that is, if you have too much, the key is no longer going to work in the cell. It's not going to unlock. It's not going to do what it needs to do. So another easy way to keep your carbohydrates within range is a cupped hand. So if you're a bigger person, you have a bigger hand. So if it's rice, if it's potatoes, whatever that thing is, if you fit it in a cupped hand and you do that at each meal that you're eating, I promise you, you are not going to go over. It's almost impossible to go overboard that way. Another way to do it is to track. If you want to track calories through like MyFitPal or Chronometer or even an app like Carb Manager, so you could track your overall carbohydrates for the day and just get an idea as to what things have how many carbohydrates. And if you keep that number below 100, you'll be more so in a fat burning state and not really going overboard. So those are a bunch of tricks that you can use. This is more important. This equation is more important than the actual calories that you have. Because if you get your body functioning more correctly, if you work your hormone system a little better and you fix the way your hormones work, they will work in your favor and it becomes super easy to stay lean, becomes super easy to build muscle. And not only that, blood sugar, when it fluctuates throughout the day, your energy will fluctuate throughout the day. Have you ever heard someone say, oh, I have the 2 p.m. crash or the 3 p.m. crash? The reason that's happening is because the blood sugar is going up and down. And as high as it goes, it's like a roller coaster. It will crash all the way down. And that's usually what's happening throughout the day. And that's why people get low on energy. That's why you may feel like you need to take a nap. If those symptoms are popping up for you, there's definitely an issue with blood sugar. So keep all those things in mind. If you have questions at all, you can leave a comment below this video. I'm trying out a new software here to do some of these live video formats. That way I could do sort of longer form and explain some of these deeper concepts. Because it's one thing to say, here, eat this or do this. It's a whole nother thing when you understand the science of what's actually happening beneath the surface. Because once you understand how it's happening and why it's happening, you're able to make better changes and you're able to get way better results. With that said, I'm Nick Vidal with the Upgraded Man Project, and I will see you on the very next video.